Farmhounds offers natural treats and chews made with quality products that support family farms, regenerative agriculture, and humane farming practices. Give your dog the best with wholesome, organic ingredients that promote health and happiness. Shop now at farmhounds.com.
Frozen heroes. Gonna tell you about frozen heroes. Gonna tell you about comic books, costumes, facts, boots, and other stuff.
In this week's issue, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, Part 2.
Welcome into Bros, Foes, and Heroes. I'm Zach, joined as always by the mighty one himself, Mr. Mike.
Hello.
That doesn't look like too mighty of a greeting. What we are is
It's been a long weekend.
No, fair enough. We talked about it a little bit. We are a comic book podcast where each week I, Zach, breaks down either a character or a kind of storyline for Mike, who knows a little bit about podcasts and a little bit about comic books too.
A little bit.
And we've been diving into Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. We did part 1 last week.
It's very
good. We
good.
have part 2 today. And again, as I go through these, I don't have every single page because you need to go out and I would say buy a copy of your own
get
to
it,
enjoy it.
Cheap ass.
Like I did. I've had it. So, and then it's worth it. It's worth it. If you're looking for something for Christmas, there you go. We plugged. For just because I love the book and it's a great story, and we're going to go ahead and close it out today. But there's stuff in there, like there's art that you're going to see that, you won't see here on this because I'm not going to give you page by page of each issue, but it is a story that's so great that I think it's fun and enjoyable, and kind of also it gives hope. And I really appreciated that a lot. I think Mike enjoyed, like he said last week when we were able to do it.
I loved it.
Just a quick programming note. Wednesday, we have our World's Finest Wednesday, and man, do we have a story for you this Wednesday. Let's talk about Batman in street clothes acting as his own lawyer.
Ooh.
It's the Outlaw Batman
fun
from Detective Comics number 40, so you can look forward to that on Wednesday. But let's go ahead and get into today's issue, which is Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, Part 2. But that starts us off here with issue number 5. As Mike, I can tell he's trying to make his
I made the screen bigger.
Woo. So I guess what I need to do actually before we get into issue 5.
Previously on Bros, Foes, and Heroes.
Previously on, you're right. This is a comic book series that is written by Tom King with art or pencils by Bilquis Evely and color by Matt Lopes.
Bilquis.
And it looks
She never answered
amazing. Well, she's busy, Mike. She's a busy woman. She's got a lot of stuff going on. So,
to be fair, I didn't really check to see if she'd answered me or not.
Well, I'm telling you, I just assume she is, especially for us. Like everybody's usually busy for us.
I get
but
that. Yeah.
Maybe someday. The art in this book is absolutely fantastic. Coloring, writing, all of it from top to bottom. So I just want to make sure and give them their creative dues because it's fantastic. But so yes, last week, a really quick TLDR, if you need a recap of what we covered last week, is we are a narrator. Our main character is a girl by the name of Ruthie, whose father, the family is rock farmers on the planet they're from, whose father was killed by Krim of the Yellow Hills. It's the big villain that we have been after kind of here.
It's way cooler than it sounds.
It is. Well, I'll give it. But so she went out looking for somebody to avenge her father's death and kill this evil man. And she has put it in her head that woman is Supergirl.
Mm-hmm.
While Supergirl is trying to explain to her, hey, that's not what I do. Krim, being told by other people that Ruthie is hunting him down, decides to show up to take care of them to begin, and so it doesn't spread any further. In the process, Crypto gets shot by an arrow. There's poison on this arrow. Supergirl now needs to hunt down Krim to be able to find a cure for this poison to save Crypto. And so they start kind of space traveling from city to city, trying to hunt down, or planet to planet, I guess, to hunt down Krim of the Yellow Hills, One, because Ruthie wants to avenge her father's death, and because Supergirl wants to be able to save Crypto.
Well, I'm just going to say, don't F with Crypto.
No.
Because that's going to piss off whoever the super being is that's with Crypto.
Very much so. And it
Yeah,
did
they don't like that.
Supergirl in issue 1. And what we have is kind of true grit in space is the best way that it's kind of been described.
Yeah.
But they're going from planet to planet. And one of the planets they stop on, they find out that Krim has been there. And he is now hooked up with a group of just these evil, savage, just hopeless mercenaries or like space pirates that are Barbans Brigands. Of course, I would get it wrong. I'm looking up the name real quick. But so Krim has essentially teamed up with this group of these horrific people. Here's the page as I open it up. Barbans Brigands is the group of space pirates. And
Brigands bargains.
Now what he's doing is he's traveling with this group and they're leaving just destruction from planet to planet where they go. And Supergirl and Ruthie are going to all these planets trying to hunt him down. And it seems like they're there just a little bit too late. And so they're faced with the aftermath of what this group is just kind of leaving behind them. And we saw a lot in issue 4, our last issue, of Supergirl just being that like neighborly figure, or like that what you would think of like Superman in a way of like each place she's going, she's trying to help the people there in any way she can while also hunting down Krim. It's just a great story. I can't do justice to the writing that's in here, and if I read it sometimes overly emotional me, like it gets to me. It's really well done. So
you know who can do justice? Supergirl.
Oh man, I did include a part in the issue we're about to get to, just because I knew you appreciated parts of it from the last couple of books that we covered. So there is some that we'll get into, but there you go.
You're so thoughtful.
I try to. So we ended the last issue in issue 4 of Supergirl trying to send Ruthie back because she's like, I know what Krim looks like now. We're about to, like, the next planet, we should have them there. This is going to be too dangerous. And Ruthie kind of tells her like, hey, I'm a girl just like you were when your planet, ended up, exploding,
going
and
boom.
Turning, and the problems you ran into, like you faced them all. I can too. If we're doing this together. And Supergirl just kind of like, all right, I don't want to fight you. Then come on. And she like knelt down, and Ruthie hopped on her back, and they flew off into space. And that brings us to now where we'll start today. Issue 5 of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow here, which again, the covers, the art, all of this is great. But what
Bilquis.
you see that really nice dinosaur head. Well, the color is fantastic too from Matt Lopes with all this. As it looks like Ruthie and Supergirl are falling into a dinosaur's mouth. What we find out is on our travels here is when they get close enough is that Krim of the Yellow Hills has this little orb, a Mordu globe is what it's called, that he is able to kind of conjure up. If we know things, it's kind of magic in a way, can pose problems to the super family,
right?
The L's. What this thing ables to do is the little orb sits there and it expands and it sucks up Ruthie and Supergirl with the orb. As they get close enough to Krim, like he immediately just pulls it out and it like sucks them up and it shrinks and it pops. And what this little orb has done then is it has transported them to another planet.
Okay.
So they've gotten close enough to Krim, and Krim pulls out his one trick in his bag that he has.
It's a portable portal.
It is. But the thing about this planet that they've landed on is, if you can see kind of there in the background, Mike, there are giant dinosaurs and just these huge creatures. But the sun there, it's green. That's not good for the super family because it's like a kryptonite sun. So it just weakens them of all their powers and slowly just kills them.
Oh, wow. Well, that's not good.
We find out as they're walking through there, like Supergirl brings this up herself as she's talking to Ruthie about this planet. She's like, yeah, somebody really hates Cal, talking about Superman. Like they built this planet just to like house him.
They built the planet?
Like they created this they created a portal like to this planet.
Oh, I see.
Just to kind of like
that makes more sense.
To do the same thing to him.
Yeah.
And Ruthie's like, wow, like how long, like what happened there? And she goes, well, thankfully the Justice League was able to come like rescue him from here.
Sure.
And Ruthie's like, oh, okay, that's great. So
Thanks,
how long?
Martian Manhunter.
How long was he able to last? Because they're talking about how once the sun goes down, her powers can kind of come back a bit and they can leave this planet. But like she can't fly, she can't do anything right now because it's zapping her of all of her powers with this green sun and just slowly kind of like irradiating her and like almost, it's like making her weak. It's like slowly
I would
kind of
think it's
debilitating
just like
her.
slowly draining her of her ability. Like it kind of like me today. It's just slowly draining my powers over time.
And so,
or life in of itself.
Ruthie asks Supergirl, like, how long did your cousin last then before the Justice League saved him? And Supergirl goes, 45 minutes.
Oh.
And he says it was the most excruciating 45 minutes he's ever lived through. And then she looks at the sun and goes, and we have 10 hours.
That is
so
it's not great.
It's not great at all.
So can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
If she hides like in the shadows, is that okay?
So that's what they're going to try to do.
That's what I thought. All right.
Ruthie takes Supergirl over to like this shadow area. Like it still has an effect on her.
Yeah, sure.
And it's still sucking all the like power and energy out of her.
Yeah.
But at least when she's not in the direct contact,
maybe it's
not
a little
as bad.
slower.
Exactly.
Yeah, sure.
But while Ruthie's there with that sword that she has as payment that she was kind of, using around and waiting, she talks about how like they're just trying to let Supergirl just kind of sleep because there's nothing else she can do. Like she has no power. She just has to like, suffer through it. And that's what she's doing there. Like you'll see at times that she's just laying there just like shaking, like not feeling well, just suffering through this. But Ruthie kind of stands guard with sword while these creatures come by, these just like dinosaur looking beasts. And she has to like fight off these creatures with no help from Supergirl because Supergirl can't do anything.
Yeah. Supergirl's a mess.
There's a part where she's able to finally slay this creature. Like she has to like do some maneuvering, like move around, but she's able to slay the creature and she decides to like lay next to Supergirl then while she rests to kind of still like be by her and still watch over if anything else comes across. These pterodactyl-like creatures, that's the best way to put them, start feeding on the dead carcass that's there by them and notice, oh, there's other life forms here too. And then they start going after Ruthie and Supergirl. And as Ruthie grabs her sword to try to do whatever she can to hopefully save them, we see the X-ray vision or the heat vision just kind of like shoot off right through the monsters. And what we see then is Supergirl standing up and goes, hey, was that it's an effing bird? No, it's a plane. Or no, it's Supergirl. And she like just passes back out again. Yeah. Like the last little bit of energy she had, she used
their laser eyes.
To save them both from those creatures before she passes back out. And you did mention that you liked how all the callbacks to the old Superman verbiage. So I figured you liked that.
Yeah, no, I love that.
And she passes back out. Eventually, as time keeps passing on, Supergirl decides, like, I need water. Like, we need to get to that lake. Like, I can't do this anymore. I just hurt so much. And Ruthie's still just trying to explain to her, like, we can't do anything while the sun's out like this. As dawn's starting to get closer and they're starting to like hopefully get closer to the day being over for them to be able to get out of this, another giant like T-Rex monster kind of shows up.
Yeah, that thing's scary looking.
It is, and it does a lot of damage, and it gets close to even biting Supergirl. As they're waiting off, she just thinks like, I need 45 minutes. Like, that's it. Come on. Like, we're almost so close to the sun being down. And she essentially just like, and that's when I learned that far off gods are fine for prayer. Where is this at? Sorry, I'm trying to remember. Oh, Ruthie's talking about how like, she prayed for them to get help. And she's like, and I figured out that like far off gods are fine for prayer. And I judge no person who seeks comfort in them. But you're better off relying on the staunch will of a good woman.
Yeah.
And so Supergirl has that moment where she's like, and she just like has another, like, let everything she has kind of stored in her to kind of like fend off the monster one more time. And is that where I ended it on that one? I might've ended it on that slide. Yeah. And destroys the monster. And then thankfully, the sun has come back down. So she can let her
so you start getting stuff back. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Let herself reheal. And they're like, all right, we know where he's at now. we're gonna go get him this time.
Okay.
Like he knocked us out of the way.
What's to keep him from doing that again, though?
Good thing you asked that, Mike.
Okay. All right.
And we'll get to that. You also asked last week if we would get a little more like backstory in a way of what happened to her and her planet.
Yeah.
And we do. And that's actually what's going to happen in the next issue. But for issue 5, to close out real quick. So essentially they show up to see Krim, try to hunt him down. He gives the Mordu orb that pops and sends them off to a different planet with the green sun.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, Ruthie, through her wit and determination, along with Supergirls, are able to survive and make it through until sundown. And now they're able to fly away and go hunt him down. And that will take us to issue 6.
Oh boy,
Of
here we
Supergirl,
go.
Woman of Tomorrow. And so you can see her mom and dad back there on the cover if you're watching along with us.
Mm-hmm.
And also Mike's favorite, Comet the Super Horse, is shown back up. I like what they do with Comet here, though. So
Okay. All right, I'll trust you.
what we get now this time.
As long as she doesn't try to tongue the horse or anything.
No.
those
But
previous-
you do remember that he was a guy at one point in time. That
Yeah,
got
it
turned
doesn't
into
matter.
a horse
He's
by
still a
Cersei.
horse. Yeah,
Well, he was a guy first.
he's still a horse.
Okay.
Yeah.
We see that Krim of the Yellow Hills is with some of the other brigands, and they're, causing problems wherever they are for this civilization on this planet they are there. They're like, friend, like the brigands, we have rules, like, we give you some last words if you got money for it. You want to pay us for any last words? Like, stuff like that. Like they're nemesis are about to destroy another planet. And we also get cut-ins of things going on in Krypton. But what happens is there's a swoosh and it scares Krim because he knows that Supergirl's there. And so that's when he pulls out another orb and he's like, I know you're here and I've got another one just waiting for you. Like we can play this game again and I can just, cause you to disappear.
So these are single-use orbs.
They're single-use orbs and it takes a lot out of somebody to create one.
Okay.
So he has, we'll come to find out, this is his only other one, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But it's taken a lot out of him to be able to create this. And so she flies up behind him while he's sitting there like, where will you go, huh? Where will you go this time if I send you somewhere? Like, where's it going to transport you to?
I love how she comes
Right behind him.
They don't even have to make the sound or anything. It's just
Oh, and the line work is great on that. And she goes, hello, I'm Supergirl, and you're Krim of the Yellow Hills, and you shot my effing dog. And about that time, like he turns around and throws the orb.
Yeah.
And she comes in with her trusty steed Comet. And what they're going to do is they're going to try to attempt to outrun this Mordu orb.
Where did Comet come from?
Like originally he was a guy.
Like why is he there?
And Cersei,
How'd he get there?
She found him and like brought him with her on
Now?
their journey. Yeah.
The horse has been there the whole time?
No, she had no need for like they went and they got Comet is what I'm assuming.
Okay.
Like Comet's off doing his own thing. And they're like, you know what? I could really use Comet in case he's going to try to throw another orb at me.
Okay.
Because what this orb does is it pulls from all the energy around it. I'm going to spoiler alert a little bit. They're going to outrun and try to run to the edge of space.
Okay.
So to where the Big Bang did not touch, where there's no energy for it to pull from, where it'll just fizzle out. So she's going to use Comet to race the Mordu orb. And while she's doing that, Ruthie is recanting to us and telling us about how while they were traveling, she eventually told her like what happened to her home planet. Okay. So it's intercut between her outrunning this Mordu orb and the story of what happened to her in Krypton.
You're saying Morty orb?
Mordu orb. M-O-R.
Okay. All right. No, you're fine. You're fine.
I'll pull it back up.
Making sure I'm getting it right.
Mordu
orb.
Now I'm glad I know the pages I'm at least going to get. Mordru. Mordru. And it's not an orb, it's a globe.
Mordru globe.
Let me call it right what it
That's
is.
Where
but
the
it
Niners
is an orb
play, right?
of power.
The Mordru Globe Stadium.
Something like that. But it is the Mordru globe. It is like a little orb of, that's just how I'm describing it. That's what it makes me think.
Yeah.
So they decide to the art on this is gorgeous.
That.
Oh, yeah. Mike, just wait. She
and the horse are just like blasting through space. I don't know how else to put it.
But while Ruthie is narrating, or we see what Supergirl is going through currently, Ruthie is narrating to us like Krypton did not die in a day. Like nobody's that kind for that to happen.
Yeah.
And she tells the story of how when, again, I don't have all of them here.
Yeah, sure.
But when Krypton exploded And like as it's exploding, Superman's parents put him in the ship. They send him to Earth, right?
Right. Got it.
Well, when Krypton exploded, Argo City, which is where Supergirl and her family lived, broke off from the rest of it.
It's a David Bowie
Still
song.
intact. Argo
Right?
City?
Argo City.
Might be.
David Bowie
Suffragette
song.
City is.
Oh, Suffragette City. Sorry. I had that wrong.
But so the city was intact, but it's separate from the rest of the planet.
Okay.
So
The city was intact.
like Argo
but
City,
separate from the rest
like
of the planet.
Krypton exploded, but one city, Argo
Okay.
City, survived, and it's floating out there in space.
Yeah, I'm just making sure I'm following along.
So what
So the
they've
city
done,
basically, like a big chunk got blown off, and the city was just on it.
yes.
Okay.
So like I'm trying to see where it's talking about where running the orb. No, I've already talked about all that. But yeah, so this is just kind of like the last
Mordor
thing.
orb.
And so it broke off like that. It explodes. Argo City is split from the surface, and most of the city's people die when it splits from the rest of Krypton.
Mm.
But then some of them endured there kind of like on the city, and the main scientist, Zor-El, who's Supergirl's dad.
Okay.
Made,
Zor-El.
made a bubble over the city to help kind of keep them alive as they floated through space.
Okay.
So,
Well, that makes sense.
so what's happening while this is going on is also Supergirl's mom is very sick.
Okay.
What happened with Krypton that caused it to kind of explode is the core of the planet.
Uh-huh.
And some of it, like it kind of started turning into kryptonite, like it was poison in itself.
Okay.
And so like from that, like it's starting to like poison the people there then
Right.
from the like, you know,
Right.
from the ground up.
Yeah, I get that.
Like Supergirl's mom is one of those. So
Okay.
while this is happening, her dad has devised a plan of that lead like shielding can protect it like radiation from coming up through. So what they've done is through the city, they'll go through and they're hammering like lead sheets down across like the ground of Krypton to keep that all down there.
Yeah.
And they talk about like Supergirl talks about how it used like she sees it used to be a lot of them, and then eventually it's just her, the only one being able to finish it.
Okay.
Like they said that there were 18,000 survivors that lived in Argo City when it split from Krypton, and 13,000 of them died from the radiation poisoning.
Wow.
So now she's down to 5,000. So she saw her whole planet explode, and then the city that she has there, the people she knew, that part's still alive, but then they're slowly starting to die from the radiation poisoning from the crypt. So she's like seeing, she's seen her planet die multiple times, no matter what she does. There start to be these, and I'm kind of going through all this, and then we can get to, you know, some of the pictures here, but they start to be, there we go, these meteorites that start like crashing into the artificial globe, and it's so sharp that it's starting to break and penetrate through the shield that they made there.
Well, they basically have no atmosphere or anything to get in the way at this point, right?
Yep.
So the only thing they've got is this magic orb or this magic
Like
shield
dome
that he's put over it. Yeah.
That her dad's kind of put over that's
And there's
protecting them from
nothing
everything.
keeping the energy and all that from coming up through the bottom.
Yeah.
So that's why they have to do the lead shields. Okay, I'm just
So
making sure I'm keeping up.
They talk about this being a year later from them putting down like the lead sheets, that a storm came and that the meteorites, like the size of bullets, started chipping away at the shielding until the radiation started to come back.
They just can't catch a break.
They can't. And so Supergirl's dad kind of tells her, like, you know, the shield can't be rebuilt. The radiation's coming back, but he's going to use all the resources he has left to build a ship to carry a single passenger. That's going to be her.
Yeah.
And she goes, there's
The Superman thing. He was just like, they just had a ship laying around, right?
Well, I think they made it for him because his dad knew that things were going to get bad. And when it starts to explode, they send him while that's happening.
All right.
There's a really great line from her dad in there about her always being his little girl. Like the writing in this is really great.
Yeah.
And how with her, there'll always be hope, at least when she's around. Like that's why it has to be her that like gets out of here kind of thing. And so that's what happens, is not being able to fix anything. They put her on the ship and send her out, as it's just doing, like the last part of Krypton is just eventually going to erode away too. And it does.
Right.
So while all this,
Well, that makes me wonder, like, Did other cities on the planet of Krypton do the same thing?
I mean, there might be story. I'm not caught up on everything. There might be another place of Krypton
Okay.
that did.
Well, I mean,
know
it
for
just
this
what
story-
I'm saying is it opens up that those possibilities, right? That something else happened the
Yeah.
same way, you know.
And there's this art here of like her writing comment, like trying to get away from
Mhm.
the orb, intercut with like her going to see her dad there.
Yeah.
Of like, is
I can
there
see
hope?
the parallels.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so-
yeah, sure.
I thought you would love this page. So they
Oh, that
finally
page
get
is
to
gorgeous.
the edge of the universe
Everything just
that
goes black
nothing's
and
been
white.
touched.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it has nothing to pull from, but
Yeah.
you see it just gradually fade through.
It's so cool.
It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, you start with all the color up top, and then you end up with the nothing. And honestly, these are meant to be back when they shipped her off. These panels. Nope,
Yes, these are. Yeah,
So they look quite faded,
they do.
and it's almost like the old comic book look.
Yes,
You know what I mean? Yeah.
But
so you
it-
can tell
it-
the difference in time.
exactly. It's a
That's
tell you.
cool. Yeah.
And Ruthie has a great line in here too, like on this page where she's like, you know, it's said at times that like a person can feel the weight of the world on their
Mhm,
shoulders.
mhm,
And
mhm.
like for a lot of people that's a cliche, but for Supergirl, that's actually
yeah, it
real.
literally was. Yeah.
But so
And see, Superman had an advantage because he was just a freaking baby.
a little bit too.
You know,
yeah.
he didn't know any of this stuff.
No, she had to live through
She's
this,
older. Yeah. Oh, that's weird that she's older than Superman.
Well, I don't know if technically she's older. If it's, I guess in this story it is.
Yeah, she is. She has to be because
She'd have to be.
they were both. Well, I don't know. Maybe her
Unless-
trajectory was different than his.
like time passed.
Yeah,
pass
that's what I'm
different.
saying. Yeah.
And also
'Cause
like
if I learned anything from the original Superman movie, Richard Donner's Superman,
Mhm.
it's that time passes differently as he goes through space and goes
That's
by
true.
the sun and all that stuff. So maybe it was different for both of them.
it could be that. Also, maybe the city holds for a lot longer before
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
radiation kind of
Yeah,
comes into.
could be.
There's things
So
like
you
that
don't know when she actually launched versus when he did.
when he
yeah,
did.
yeah, yeah.
So
I got you.
It could
Sure.
work that way.
But she looks like she's like a teenager.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, she just celebrated her 21st birthday at the beginning of the story, though.
Oh,
too.
okay. Oh, that's right. That's right. Because she was on that planet where she could drink.
So maybe that's what, like, maybe Cal left, but it would make no sense because she wouldn't be born after.
Well,
It's got to be how
Cal,
time
you know,
or
Superman left before the planet blew up.
That's true.
I mean, they actually
I guess
launched
in
him
theory,
before.
but it was wild. Like if it's Martin Brando in that movie, it's
well,
wild,
I
but
get. Marlon Brando's never told a good story in his life, but
he's being played by Billy Zane.
what
We talked about that.
in the new one?
And no. Marlon Brando's being played by Billy Zane. in
Oh,
that movie
yeah.
with
Okay.
John
Okay.
Hamm.
I thought we were saying in the new Superman movie
No.
that Billy Zane was going to be a big character,
No.
which would make my heart sink to my feet.
But so what happens after that is Supergirl shows back up after she's outran the orb,
Yeah.
and Krim can't believe it. And Ruthie asks, like, you afraid he has another Mordu globe? And Supergirl goes, not really. You can only have one at a time, and they're really hard to make. He probably didn't have the time to make another one.
Mm.
And she goes, so all he has is a sword and arrows, just from back at the beginning. And Ruthie's like, yeah, pretty much. And she catches it and like snaps it. And Ruthie's like, well, that's the trouble. I mean, because you're Supergirl and you don't give a shit about swords and arrows, which is the callback to the very first issue there.
No, that's great.
So, and she snaps it. And that's where we end issue 6 of where they now finally have
Yeah, he's in trouble.
Krim of the Yellow Hills. Oh, he is most certainly in
He's now
trouble.
Krim of the Yellow Pants.
Ah, nice joke.
Thank you.
So, issue 7 of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow.
7 of 8.
7 of 8. These are our
Wow.
last 2 issues here as we
Zowie.
end this epic. We see Supergirl kind of floating with that is the ship of the Barbin's Brigands.
It's that
The space pirate
solar pirate ship or whatever. Yeah.
Yep. And she's kind of dwarfed by it. We come to find
Well,
out.
I guess as you should be.
I just love this art here. But
She's just floating.
yeah, she's just kind of sitting there
Out in
floating with a
space.
determined look on her face.
Is that supposed to be Earth?
I think that is back behind her
Okay.
potentially.
Alright.
So what we have here in this story
Her boots
is
go way up.
she knows they do here. She knows that, and we've learned it too, that ere we come to find out that the Brigands if one of theirs is left behind, they will do whatever they can to go and save him.
Sure.
Or if one of theirs is killed, they'll go back and lay waste to anybody who's affected anybody there.
Well,
so
I mean, it's like we've always heard, no brigands left behind.
exactly,
Right? Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
So Supergirl is deciding, I'll take the fight to the brigands then, since we have Crim.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll
Mhm.
deal with the brigands, and then we'll deal with Crim of the Yellow Hills.
Okay.
While she's off dealing with the brigands, Ruthie is on this other planet far away. That's not Earth. The planet they're on
Giant
there.
ass apple.
It is, but that's the planet that I think they're on that we saw in
Yeah.
the background there.
Okay.
And so Ruthie's just sitting there with Comet, and they're talking, while they're finding this this apple or whatever fruit
Okay,
that
let's
she's eating,
be
she's
fair.
feeding.
They're not talking. She's talking.
Ruthie's talking
Yeah.
to the Comet.
The horse is not talking.
The horse
Yeah.
is not talking.
Yeah.
But there's times where it like neighs,
Uh-huh.
and Ruthie's like, I know. Like she's either answering
Yeah.
for him, or she's like, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
We come to find out though that they have Crim of the Yellow Hills tied up to a tree there on this planet.
Mm.
And she is ready. She's like, I understand that, me being here by myself might cause you a little panic, Comet, but like Supergirl knows I'm not going to do anything. Just me and Crim here. Like, we'll deal with him once she gets back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, allow me to demonstrate Supergirl's trust in me. Like, she knows what she's doing, Comet, is what Ruthie's telling the horse here. And she's like, as it stands, in about 2 seconds, I will have Crim's head. And about that time, Comet darts in between the two of them there. And Ruthie's just kind of like,
Yeah,
fine.
she doesn't. Comet does not want her to have to go through that,
Exactly.
the killing of this guy, and live with that. And
Exactly.
And that's funny how, like, that is all demonstrated in one single panel.
It is of just
That's
crypto.
crazy.
Of
Yeah,
Comet
that's
just
really
kinda
good. Really
sliding
good.
in there. We get
Where's Crypto, by the way?
Crypto's back on that planet still. Remember?
Oh,
with the
that's right.
vet
That's right. Because
recovering
he got
he got
smacked
poisoned
up.
arrow. So we also get these great like images of her just in this big bang out just battle with the brigands.
That's a lot of battle.
It is just the shots that she's being hit with. There's a part where she goes back to like Earth to like a yellow. She has to find a yellow sun to like regenerate, but
mhm.
like it's a knockdown, drag out fight between her and this whole group of space pirates. So we cut back. We're cutting back between her fighting the brigands and Ruthie and Crim here on this
Mhm.
planet. And she decides, like, I'm going to do something that, I'll let you talk a little bit, which is probably a bad idea. You should just leave him, with the gag in his mouth. And she's just like, Crim is just like, is that you, Rock Girl? Huh? Are you
Rock
from that
Girl.
rock farm? Like, he's just like, he knows who it is.
Yeah, yeah.
And she's like, no, it's Othin, leader of the brigands, here to rescue you from your current misery. Like, she's just kind of
She's just
teasing with
taunting
him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Crim's just like, you're not funny. Like, this is just kind of pathetic. Your attempt at humor. And so Ruthie's just like, okay, steady your arrogance, Kingsguard. Like, she's ready to just kind of have a piece at him. Like, and Comet is still kind of just neighing, like getting her to stop, where Ruthie's like, oh, swallow your oats. I'm not going to do anything. Like, she just keeps like having to tell him, like, I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
But obviously talking to Crim might not be the best idea for Ruthie. Supergirl is back battling, and I just love the art here of this. Like, she lands on the ship, and you can see the indentation of like her feet there,
Mhm.
and things just kind of flying off around her in space.
I just like the action poses. That
I love this.
This like you can tell what action is happening, even though they're still. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yes. While Ruthie, and I thought you might appreciate this to give a little clarity. I don't know if we ever talked about this, and it might be a moot point and just confusing, so I'm not going to bring it up now. I'll bring it up at the end of the story. I realize after I
Well,
do
then
that.
we never talked about it.
No, we will at the end of the story. But there's a
Okay.
line in the very first book, or the very first issue
Mhm.
that I skipped over because I wanted us to get to most of the story before doing it. But where she was talking about, remember early on where she talks about how the sword was so easy to retrieve from her father's
Yeah.
chest, like she don't know
Yeah.
why Crim left it.
Yeah.
And she goes, I can testify that it wasn't lodged deep enough to where like a child like me could pull it out. She goes, I had meant to ask him and even had the question on my tongue when Supergirl and I eventually found the filthy man, and he begged for his life with tears in his eyes. But Supergirl delivered the fatal blow, and Crim fell dead to the ground before I could get it out. That's from the very first issue.
Mhm.
So I didn't tell it to try to let it build some.
Yeah.
But we kind of know where we're headed with this. But what happens is back while she's dealing
That's
with
a
the
big
brigands,
commitment to making the first issue.
it is.
Yeah.
Back on the planet, as Ruthie's like talking about her dad to Krim, he's like, your father wasn't anything special, you know. Like I was just walking through the plains looking for, you know, with plans for the King's Council for years. Like it was something I did. It's fine money and the work was okay, but being amongst the people, like, you know, get them to earn their trust. You know, you hear things, you hear whispers, you find the local and you punish the wicked. Like that's what I was supposed to do. And he's like, I had a standard way of like doing all this. Like I'd tell a joke and I'd see how people, he goes, the joke about the king's sister and not the Reverend Mother, or what was it? Oh, that rumors that the first prince was sired by the king's sister, not the Reverend Mother. Like I would make a joke about that, see how people kind of reacted.
It's such a funny joke.
Yeah. When he goes, those who go along with the humor reveal themselves to kind of be like unwitting knowing of their execution, to see that they were ill speaking of the king. And he goes, your father actually didn't laugh, though, much to his credit. Instead, he objected forcefully. Like he yelled at me for my rudeness on his land. He told me that I shouldn't talk about the king like that. And that I needed to like vacate the premises immediately, apologize for this blasphemy, and walk away from him and his family after all the, like, you know, goodwill he had shown me. And instead, I just couldn't deal with him talking down to me like that. Like, who was he to know me? So that's why I killed him. Like, and Ruthie just kind of finds out, like, there's no rhyme or reason.
Yeah, there's just nothing there.
And so that just, if anything,
because he wanted to kill somebody,
just like enrages her more to think of that.
Yeah.
There's no rhyme or reason to it there. We also get intercut that the brigands have Supergirl finally kind of like tied up and
I don't think that's
imprisoned
gonna
in a
work,
way,
but
and they have a gun with a kryptonite bullet. Kryptonite is rare, but the rich can find the rare. And so while she's sitting there and the main captain has a bullet there for her, and he's like, well, this is unexpected. And you see Supergirl goes, no, you can't, please just don't. And the guy's just sitting there like, you hear that in all of your travels? Has the song sounded sweeter? Like he thinks that she's just sitting there begging, that the captain's begging her not to be shot.
Yeah.
And she goes, you hear me? I'll be fine. She needs you. Please don't. And the captain's like, what? And you see her go, I'm serious, Comet. Don't you effing dare. And then that's the captain's just like, Comet. And about that time, the horse leaves Ruthie alone with Krim to go save Supergirl.
Oh my.
Like Ruthie the whole time is like, I don't want to stand between you and Supergirl. She needs you. So Ruthie is essentially like coaxing Comet into like, she needs you right now bad. Yeah. Because she wants to be left alone with Krim of the Yellow Hills. And you see her there kind of grab the hilt of the sword as she unsheath it as she's walking over to Krim as we end issue 7 here.
She just wants to take his ass out
of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. Yeah, no, she is ready. And that
can't blame her.
Yeah, no, she is ready to go ahead and be done with Krim of the Yellow Hills. So that is issue 7. We'll now start issue 8, our final issue here of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. And I do love the cover of this one. And it just kind of is like, this is where we're at in this story.
Supergirl just looks exhausted. She's beat up. She's bloodied. The knife is in the background, or the sword is in the background. That big, I guess that's the tree he was tied to because it's got all the ropes and stuff on it.
And you see the sword covered in blood. Like it's.
Yeah, and there's just blood in the water and everything.
This is the conclusion we were promised in the first issue.
I don't mean exhausted. I mean exasperated.
Yes,
is how she looks. Yeah, she looks exasperated.
But this is what we were promised then in the first issue.
Yeah.
And we're finally here. Like we knew where we were going. We just didn't know how we got here. So now we're seeing what led to us here.
Yeah.
So we start the issue with Ruthie having the sword to Krim's throat. And he says like, I know I'll run and are talking about like, if Supergirl doesn't kill them, like if Supergirl isn't able to stop the brigands, they're going to come here and find me. And they're going to, tear you limb from limb.
They're going to kill everybody in the
right?
way. Yeah,
you're just next for them.
Sure.
if you get lucky and Supergirl is able to like take care of them, oh no, like I'm stuck with, you know, Supergirl to come and like, you know, take care of me. The protector of many is like what he kind of says. He's like, blood's gonna come either way. Well, she goes, you're a snake and you're talking snake talk. Ain't nothing more than that. And we finally see
snake talk.
I like that line. And we finally see that Crypto has shown up right as the captain has shot the bullet towards Supergirl. So Crypto is essentially sacrificing himself then, taking that kryptonite bullet. And Ruthie has decided while Supergirl is watching that happen, she cuts Crim's ropes to leave him free from the tree. And she's like, I'm going to do what you didn't allow my father to do, and I'm going to make this a fair fight.
Sure.
So she cuts him loose as Supergirl sees that Comet has. First, to start things off, you shot her dog with an arrow.
Yeah.
Did not end well.
Mm-mm.
Now you've killed her horse.
Yeah.
So you see, I love the middle
Killed
of that.
the horse?
Well, it's a kryptonite bullet.
Well, I get it, but I mean,
Well,
they killed him? Okay. All right.
So you see her just break the chains off of just like pure anger there.
Yeah.
Or just
Yeah.
emotion. And it's also intercut with Ruthie putting the sword between her and Crim and them kind of standing like the same distance apart, mixed with Supergirl just like explosions on the ship as everything's just being like torn asunder. And she goes, all right, have we not waited long enough, Ruthie, as Crim of the Yellow Hills? Is it now not our time, kind of in a way? And Crim runs for the sword, and when he does to grab it, Ruthie like kicks him. And it's like a good back and forth. And while she kicks him in the like face and he falls back, she goes to wrestle the sword away from him and he won't let go of it. So she bites into his arm. Like Ruthie is doing everything then and like steals the sword back from Crim.
But she wants this fight.
She wants this fight. Yes.
Yeah.
This is what she's wanted the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
That she's wanted to hunt down Crim to avenge her father. And now that he's there, like this is the fight she wanted. So she's ready for all this and she'll do anything she has to. She goes to strike a blow to finally kill Crim. I think, did I include it? No, I didn't. Oh, so they wrestle back and forth and like they're, you know, he's yelling at her and they're kind of going back and forth and she ends up cutting off some of his fingers in the fight too.
Okay.
So there's a point where he's just there on his knees, fingers off, and she has him, you know, as she's like walking there to him. And she goes to finally take the final cut. She's like, this is what I was here for. Like the moment had finally come. And she lets out that yell and she goes to make it and she can't.
Mm-hmm.
And then Crim's like, what? And she goes to try again. And she's like, for my father. And she slams the sword down right beside him.
Mm-hmm.
And then again. And she keeps like swinging at him and missing. Just over and over again. It doesn't matter. She's like, something.
Well, she just can't bring herself.
Something's wrong with me.
Yeah.
Like, I can't kill you. And Supergirl flies down from the sky and she goes, I don't know. Maybe you just need a little help.
Mm.
And we do see Comet in human form there then now. I told you
is that who that's who it is?
That's Comet.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So as she's flying down,
still don't like it.
Well, I know, but Ruthie's bringing it up. Ruthie's like, what he was, and Supergirl goes, he was once a man who was changed into a horse.
Yeah.
It's complicated.
Okay.
They at least say they're like,
yeah,
it's complicated.
Yeah.
But they're not like getting away.
At least
from,
they addressed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as they land there now with Comet, Supergirl are I'm assuming dead. Like he just kind of looks there and he's not kind of brought back.
Mm-hmm.
What we find out is Supergirl grabs the sword from. I didn't have it in here. I got to pull it from my book, so I have it to read it. Because Supergirl grabs the sword from Ruthie then as they're there, and she's like, you know what? Apparently, I didn't do the job that I was supposed to. As she's sitting there, she goes, as she like walks closer to Crim, getting ready to kill him there. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to find the word so I can read it. She goes, that was Comet. Here's what it is. He was a man. He was cursed to be in the body of a horse. It's complicated. He didn't like to tell people about it.
Well, he's a horse.
Yeah. No, and she goes, he told me because he loved, and then she stopped.
Mm.
And then she goes, it doesn't matter. It's complicated, but I
Mhm.
knew. So like they kind of like give a nod to it in a way.
Yeah.
But then she goes, but he saved me, and like the brigands are in retreat, but I'll follow them later. Now I have to, we're at the end here, aren't we? As she walks over to Krim. And she goes, you're all going to, they're going to come for all of you, is what Krim's like yelling out. Like, they're going to kill you all. And Ruthie's like, no, you can't kill him, right? You can't kill Krim. Like, he's the only one who knows about the poison for like crypto. Like, you have to let him live. Like, why? Let me go ahead and just close out. Like, why would you like kill him then? Like, that's kind of part of what we've been on for this whole time. And Supergirl goes, crypto? Crypto's fine. He's been fine the whole time. Like, the veterinarian's taking care of him on his world.
The veterinarian?
Yeah, she's like, I just made all that stuff up about finding Krim to save him and needing you to come with me because you knew what Krim looked like. You don't think I could have solved all this on my own? She goes, I'm Supergirl. Like, I could have done all this without you.
Fair point.
And Ruthie's like, I don't understand. And she goes, because you wouldn't listen to me. She goes, I could tell you were stubborn. I knew you were stubborn well enough, and you weren't going to learn that killing is wrong just by me saying it. So
she had to have her go through those actions. Yeah.
Of everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So Supergirl goes, you're going to waste the rest of your I can curse a little bit on this, but she was like, you're going to waste the rest of your life chasing this fucking dream about this worthless shit.
Yeah.
Like I dream about Krypton.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she's telling her, like, I know.
Well, she's going to ruin her life.
Yeah.
You know, because it's going to be stuck with her for the rest of her life. Yeah.
But Supergirl's like also telling her because it's like, I know because I'm the same way.
Yeah, it might be a different subject, but it's stuck in my brain forever.
Exactly.
Yeah, just like that would be stuck in
your
brain.
Just like with yours.
Because, I mean, once you're a killer, you're a killer.
Exactly.
You know, no matter how it happens.
And so she tells Krim then, like, all right, boy, any last words? And Krim's just like, you can't. And Supergirl just tells him, be quiet. And she goes to rear back the sword to come back down.
Yeah.
And Ruthie just goes, I learned it. And she's still going to swing. And it's one of those things of where, like, Ruthie has to be like, Supergirl, you hear me? And she's yelling it out to her. I learned it.
Yeah.
And then Ruthie
she
goes.
She did teach her the lesson. The hardest way possible, but she did teach her the lesson. Yeah.
And so Ruthie goes through, like, all those moments that we've covered then. The beginning issue, the hand washing, the blue people on Maypole. Like, it's each issue.
Yeah.
Like,
there's 7 things
from each
there.
issue that she took from. Her. So, and she tells her, like, I learned it. And she has the sword there, and Supergirl still has it, like, ready to draw. And she's like telling her, like, you know, I too had the sword above him and I couldn't do it. And like, enough, like, we've seen enough killing through all this. We don't need any more.
Sure.
And then she goes, come on, like, the hour move quickly. Let us find another way for punishment for this man. A grave for your horse in company with your pup. And Ruthie and Supergirl just looks at Ruthie and goes, Ruthie, it's too big and we're too small.
Yeah.
Which is the same thing that Ruthie told her at the end of issue 3 after they found out about the Purple Town.
Yeah.
And all the people there.
Yeah.
So
I can't even imagine, like, the number of beings they've seen killed.
Yeah.
Over this entire thing.
Like it's been enough.
Yeah. And if you kill this guy this way, then you're the same as them for the most part, right?
But we know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So that's a great, like, it's too big and we're too small. And then Supergirl delivers the final blow to Krim of the Yellow Hills.
Oh boy.
But we fast forward to the future.
Okay.
Or at least that's what it makes you think there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So we fast forward to the future. I'm making sure I'm not leaving anything out in the panels because I would hate to have my story out of order, but I don't think I do. And when they're there,
she cut her hair short.
She did. Well, I mean, she decided to the long hair. She didn't like it. You see the woman. Well, you see the woman above there, the old woman.
Boots are different.
That's Ruthie. The old woman there is Ruthie. Then.
Okay.
So this is like 300, 400 years in the future.
Gotcha.
300, I think.
Gotcha.
And she sits there and shows up, and Ruthie goes, "What? Stop it. You know what time it is. There ain't even sunlight yet. Can a woman rest?" And Supergirl's there and just smiles. And Crypto's there too. And she goes, "Am I experienced, Ruthie dear? No, I do not believe she ever can." And what we find out is they didn't kill Krim. Instead, are you familiar with the Phantom Zone, Mike? We've talked about it before.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like a place of where you live in like a ghost, like you can watch the world happen, but you can't interact with it.
Was that where Zod and all his guys went in Superman?
Yep.
Okay.
That's the Phantom Zone.
Yeah. Okay.
So they just find out.
Hey, how about that, huh?
There you go.
Nice
so
job.
they essentially sentence Krim to 300 years in the Phantom Zone.
Yeah.
And so what he did is like the first 100, like he yelled about how this was a travesty for him to be in there. The second 100, he relived like all the terrible things he did. And,
shut your dumb mouth.
And the third 100 years, like he
Golden
spent
Hills
time figuring out how he could make amends for everything.
Oh, okay.
And so what happens is they release him from the Phantom Zone.
Oh, wow. He's old.
He is. And it's there with Ruthie. And we find out that Ruthie put the whole narration we have through this whole thing is a book that Ruthie wrote.
Well, Supergirl looks older too.
She does.
Like she looks fairly old.
But
for
still
Supergirl,
like young. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the whole narration has been a book that Ruthie wrote. And she wrote that Supergirl killed Krim in case the brigands wanted to come after anybody.
Okay.
They would go after Supergirl. Like that's what Supergirl asked Ruthie to do.
Yeah.
And so like that's all the narration we've had is from this book that she's just come out with, and they released Krim. And he's
now
like,
available
is it over?
on Amazon in space.
Yeah. And Supergirl goes, "Krim of the Yellow Hills, you have served your time and you worked on your soul, your home, and you are free." And Krim is just like he's like forgiving of like, thank you, like to Supergirl. And to you, Ruthie Marie Knoll, like I have thought of you, nothing but you and your, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Forget, like he's just begging for forgiveness. Forgive me, forgive me, forgive me. And Ruthie just sits there. I don't have it here. Ruthie just has her old cane there that she's carrying with, and she just kind of like smacks him in the face with it, and he falls down, and she just leaves him there.
Yeah.
And like that's where the book ends of like Krim's free, but it's not like she has to accept his forgiveness.
Yeah, no, he was in hell for 30 or 300 years, you know? Yeah.
And so like he comes out asking for it, and she just sits there and gets one last blow. And her and Supergirl just walk away, leaving Krim kind of laying on his back with his hand on his nose.
Yeah, that's cool.
There in the Yellow Hills. And that is how we end Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow.
What a great series.
Yes. Oh, it's great.
It's really good.
So there you go. All 8 issues there of that one. And it's a joy. I loved it so much. So
it was fun. Yeah. It's not our normal, it's not Batman defending himself in court, but
no, but we will have that later in the week too.
Yeah, but it is it's very sobering. It's a beautiful comic, and the writing is cool. Yeah, it was really, really good.
Yeah,
I like that
so
a lot.
There you go, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and they're working on. I think it's going to come out in 2026. Supposed to film next year in 2025, but that should be the next movie.
You think that's the plot line?
They talked about that. That's what they're adapting.
Yeah.
You remember when James Gunn kind of gave a roadmap about a year or two ago of like what we're basing it off of?
Yeah.
It was
that one.
Tom King's Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow.
That's cool.
So I think that's what the movie is going to be based off of. I'm sure they'll make changes. It seems
like a movie, right? I mean, it's very cinematic in the way that it's made.
I can tell you, they've already cast Ruthie. They've already cast their Supergirl, and they've already cast the Krim of the Yellow Hills.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure it's going to be pretty close to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's just a great way of not knowing the character either, of like a standalone story.
Yeah.
Because you don't need to tell, like you can tell through flashbacks.
Absolutely. You don't have to give an origin. Yeah.
I don't know what we're going to do next week yet. There's a couple things that I have percolating around. We'll do something fun.
Interpretive dance
at some point in time, and I might find some too. We're going to do some more Christmas. I mean, it's Christmas time.
Yeah, we need to do Christmas
like
stuff.
Frosty, or like maybe some more Woolworths.
Give me some weird ass Frosty shit from Woolworths. That'd be great.
Those are always fun. But there you go, Supergirl.
I'm a snowman. Buy some stamps. Support the troops.
Thank you guys for taking the time out to listen. Don't forget, Wednesday, we have Detective Comics number 240, or The Case of the Outlaw Batman.
Yeah, that one should be fun.
We might have a guest on there too. We'll have to wait and see. So you can look forward to that. Thank you guys for taking the time out to listen to today's episode. We really appreciate it. Don't forget to follow the other great podcasts on the Rogue Media Network family of podcasts.
RogueMediaNetwork.com.
And until next time, stay safe, everybody.
Bye. Oh, shit. Golly con.
Oh, man. Oh, well, you know what's even better is when you say it and I don't have the
That's
outro
okay.
ready.
Golly con, golly con, golly con, golly con.
Frozen heroes. Gonna tell you about frozen heroes. Gonna tell you about.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.